everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. How are you? How is everybody? I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving season, and I apologize for a delay in these podcasts. You can still hear my voice kind of rattling around. I ended up getting stupid, stinking sick at the top of November. I am a vaccinated person, and I live in Montana, where we have a lot of people who choose not to get the vaccine. So we have quite a lot of really interesting variants that run around up here, as does the rest of the country, quite honestly. But anyway, I ended up getting COVID again, and then I got a sinus infection on top of that, and then I got bronchitis, and then I lost my voice completely. I mean, dead gone for 2 weeks, and it's literally been crawling back. I've had clients later in the afternoon, which by the time I get to talking to them, I literally sound like the squeaky end of Marge Simpson. It's so terrible. But I finally can talk for more than just a few minutes at a time. So here we go. Man, what a weird time frame, right? And I've got so much to talk to you about. It's really insane how much I have to talk to you guys about. So I would love to get started on this. And what we're going to be covering is a pretty big topic. As a matter of fact, it's going to be multi-parts because it's so big. And this is usually a topic I cover in October. And interestingly enough, I only got part of the story in October from the universe and from the angelic realm. And then I got the rest of the story here now with, really the beginning of November. And then I got, creepy zombie death virus that just lasted and went. So anyway, I want to talk to you about 2022's year of expansion. And this is part one on 2022's year of expansion because there is so much here to talk about. Now, the important thing to recognize here, especially right now during these times, is that first and foremost, 2021, for all intents and purposes, was really cleanup on aisle 9. It was cleanup on aisle 9 for 2022. Now, we recognized that that's what 2021 was going to be, right? I mean, it was really going to be something that was a little Old West. And it was Old West for a good part of the year for many people. In fact, I know a lot of people who in 2020 had a much better year than in 2021. I mean, 2021 was like a weird hybrid episode of American Horror Story, like that had a baby with Jacob's Ladder. I mean, it was just weird, displacement of jobs, a lot of people doing the Great Resignation, which is a good thing because we need to leave jobs that no longer fit us, right? That no longer serve us. Yet there was a big migration of people away from life paths that no longer serve them. And that was a great big deal. I mean, that was a big, weird deal. So what I would tell you is that when we're looking at all of this stuff, 2022's year of expansion is kind of going to seem like somebody shot it off a rocket pad at the speed of light. This is a really, really accelerated year. And I want you to think about what it means for things to expand. I mean, that's really quite something. If things are expanding, that means that they are traveling away from the center explosion, if you will, expansion, right? Think about an exploding firework. It's all of those sparks that are traveling away from this core explosion. So 2021 was kind of the core explosion. Actually, 2020 was the core explosion. And everything's traveling away at an exponentially fast speed. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, if you think about the edges of our universe, the vacuum of space that the Earth floats around in, is traveling away from us. It's expanding, and there are quasars, which are spinning stars, way caught in that tidal wave of vacuum expansion on the edges of the universe that are traveling at hundreds of millions of miles per second. Now, don't ask me how science figures that out. I think that's kind of hoodoo magic. I have no idea. Secondly, can you even fathom how quickly that is? That's an expansion of space-time that folds your brain in on itself and creates its own wormhole in your mind. Trying to think about a quasar that's moving that quickly, or even the quasars that move at 40,000 miles per second. We have ridiculous amounts of speed on the edge of our universe, where the vacuum of space is literally expanding and kind of sucking in whatever is out there. Who even knows? Maybe we're the parasitic universe that's eating other multiverses. Have you thought of that? Maybe we're the big fat bummers here because, wow, that's pretty raunchy. So the year of expansion and the velocity through which we are going to expand in 2022, rather than the inside of a firecracker and watching those sparks fly out, it's more like the velocity of being the quasar on the edge of space and heading farthest away from everything as you can. Just burying everything in your rearview mirror. That is the velocity of 2022. Okay. The velocity of 2022 is unreal. And I want to put some focus here because so many of you wrote to me and talked to me during 2021 about what an unbelievable freaking bummer it was that in 2021, a lot of people's life paths just kind of went up on blocks. Like you were getting your tires changed out, cinder blocks got stuck right underneath of those forward movement ankles for everybody. And there we sat suspended in 2021's parking lot going, what the hell is going on with my life right now? This was so prevalent. And a big part of that is because there needed to be major life shifts for many of us going forward in this time frame. We're not talking little life shifts. I'm talking great big major life shifts going forward. This was a great big deal for a lot of people. And so I would put out there for folks that when we're thinking about going forward and we're thinking about 2022's year of expansion, I can already hear the sighs of relief and the excitement out there going, yay, I'm going to get off my blocks and I'm going to get moving. All this is true. Yet I would like to remind everybody that even though all of that is true, let's talk about some of the expansion that's going to happen and how that's going to impact us. So if you are like most of us out there and you've sat around and really have not had a whole lot happen for you in 2021, and maybe a lot of you have changed jobs, I do see a lot of job changes in 2021. Yet I do also see a lot of suspension of life path forward movement. I've seen it with my clients all year. I got the angel who walks with the world here helping me with 2022 information. So let's talk about that. The year of expansion is going to cover everything in 2022. It's going to cover sociology. It's going to cover government. It's going to cover how we see ourselves as inhabitants of planet Earth. It's going to cover how we see ourselves in our world and in our life here. It's going to cover everything. And the bottom line is that as we go forward, the year of expansion is also about expanding our minds, expanding our consciousness. Everything we've been learning in all of these emotional lessons since 2012 came to fruition in 2020. And now we're needing to make some significant improvements. This is not the time frame to sit back and say, yeah, well, I already did the work. Well, I'm sure you did. I'm sure I did. Yet regardless of how much work we've already done, we're going to need to resaddle and get ourselves back out there in a different way because the year of expansion is going to demand an expansion of our life path abilities. What does that mean? Well, let's start with, I'm not going to start with money. I'm going to start with how we look at one another. I'm going to start with sociology. This angel is talking all about how it's going to be really necessary for us to evolve ourselves, especially here in the United States, that we do us with others. If we've been us with others in a combative way from 2016 to 2020, we've got to come out of the combative modality because in the year of expansion, Everything that we've built to this point, even though 2021 probably felt like nothing happened. You probably felt like Han Solo after being stuck in the vacuum box and, freeze frozen by Boba Fett. You probably feel like that through 2021. I get that. So did I. 2021 was weird. It was weird. So 2022 is predicated, the energies are predicated upon how you have centered yourself and what you believe in your life at this point. Now, this is a massive concept, which is why I've broken this podcast down into different parts and different episodes, because 2022's year of expansion is basically, the first part of it is, what kind of garden have you planted up to this point in your life? I mean, are you somebody that who is your entire reason for living to rage against the machine in an angry way that others could perceive as hateful, even if you don't mean it to be hateful? I mean, what is the main powerful forward movement for your life? What's the garden you grew? Okay. If you're somebody that has been for the last couple of years, especially the last 4 or 5 years, if you're somebody who is really focused on social justice or social change or, getting your body together, if you're somebody that is focused on what you're going to do with the rest of your life in retirement, if you're somebody who focused on positive change, peace, love, and harmony, if you're somebody that focused on, I hate everything and I'm going to burn it all down. Whatever you've been building over really the last 10 years up to 2020 and then the last, year, 2022 is going to expand on, which is why, now I've seen this coming. I didn't know it was going to be packaged in 2022's year of expansion. However, I have seen that we were going to have some pretty huge consequences, which we always do, with life path and whatnot, yet giant reciprocal consequences for our choices that we were making in the last subsequent several years. I realized that we were going to get handed a karma sandwich in one big chunk. Now, I didn't know when that was coming. I could just tell by the preoccupation that these angels have had in really, working to get people to understand that there is no such thing as righteous hatred. That though we do need to be a firewall for change and a firewall against injustices, that the way to do it is not necessarily to take fire and burn it all back down. I understand, listen, gang, there is a time when you have to get gritty and you have to dig in and you have to fight back. I get that 100%. Yet, we've got to do it in such a way with almost 8 billion of us on the planet now. We've got to do it in such a way that we are not degrading or deconstructing the humanity of another person just because we're trying to make a point, okay? And this is going to get really itchy in 2022 because our federal government is going to do some weird stuff. And whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right, we're going to have lefties upset about this. We're going to have righties upset about it. I swear to God, I think being the president of the United States would actually be an awesome puzzle. I would actually really weirdly enjoy that job. At the same time, I was wondering what kind of crazy person would take the job. I would like that job. I would like to be the person who figured out the communication puzzles and have to break bad news to people as well as good news and try to navigate peaceful relations in a world that's on fire. Weirdly, I would find that an interesting way to apply the skill set that I have. Now, it's unlikely that I'm ever going to be the president of the United States. However, if I was, God, I really don't know that I'd want to be president right now. Because 2021 all the way through to 2020, 24 into 25 is going to be such a massive growth period for the U.S., and a lot of it is people coming away from the polarized edges that we've all been out driven toward. Now, we're always going to have people, gang, always. We're always going to have people that love to play the oppression Olympics. and love to shame other people and live to be angry because their wounds are so incredibly great within themselves that the only way that they can exact themselves in the world is to focus that pain through anger, and folks try to do an amazing job through whatever it is, business, activism, raising kids, yet a lot of times it can come through that anger. 2022's year of expansion is going to ask us to give away unnecessary anger. We all have some righteous anger once in a while. That's part of being human. Yet to give away anger as a modality to address differences. It's not how Gen Z relates with one another. It's really not even how, there's a lot of millennials that get into the anger thing. The whole angry, we look at the internet and see the angry white guy, the angry mad dad yelling at everybody in the 1950s because those poor little boys were screamed at by their fathers and it was just passed on. So if we look at the angry, and my apologies to all my sweet white men out there. I know there's a ton of you, so obviously I'm not talking about you guys. But even you guys know who I'm talking about. That angry white guy that's just got to be the alpha in the room, and he gets drunk, and instead of just dancing on the tables, singing loudly in a falsetto to Shania Twain, that guy's out there picking fights with everybody and bumping chests and doing the whole... I never really quite got this thing with really super straight guys, right? And they get into a fight and they get right up. Their chests are against each other and their bellies are against each other and they're talking in really low voices and their lips are inches from one another. And I'm like, will you just give him a kiss and buy him dinner? Is this a fight or a date? What do you do? Do you guys know how you look right now? You look like somebody's going to plant one on each other. It's crazy. Anyway, so if we look at the era of the anger that comes out, the anger. 2022's year of expansion is not a year to expand in anger. Now, I do understand that this is a message that really ruffles a lot of people's feathers because people mistake this angelic message of temperance and occasional anger that is used as a tool to steer us to solutions and maybe get us past our fear or to put a firewall down when we're pushed, or to create an energy signature like an EMF blast that stops a trickle down of garbage. We see that this becomes a bit of a problem in 2022 because the ethers are so thin that what you think the thought becomes a thing in a nanosecond in 2022. This is part of the physics of the year of expansion. Our thoughts become things. So if we're busy just stomping around and everybody sucks and everyone's our enemy and nobody listens to us and we're the big fat victim and poor us, okay? After a minute of the year of expansion, what we're going to do is expand our own universe at 100 million miles per second on the edges of our grumpy universe, and we're going to create a vacuum of garbage that we're floating in, okay? That is 2022's year of expansion. This is a big deal. Consciousness is super important in 2022's year of expansion. And again, I'm not saying don't get angry about things. I'm Italian. I got angry about all kinds of things. Good Lord. Sidebar, I went and watched House of Gucci. Now, I suggest everybody go see it. I didn't really want to go see it. I didn't. I love Lady Gaga. I'm not really a fashionista, okay? And so I thought it was going to be this big fashion-heavy movie with lots of influencer style photography and cinematography. It wasn't. It's a story about Italians being Italian in Italy and in New York, and it's really good. So I suggest you see it. But the point is, getting back to my topic here, as this angel who walks with the world is helping me, the point is that I'm Italian and I can get plenty mad about all kinds of things. And if you know Italians, we can get real mad. So it's not that I can't get angry. It's that how do I channel the anger, and do I become the anger, or is it just a modality for me to make bigger changes? And gang, 2022 is going to all be about how do I expand my consciousness, because whatever crop I've already planted up to this point in my life is going to continue to expand. Now, we got a couple more weeks here in December, and we also have the top of January. because right away, an energy of a year doesn't exactly snap right in at midnight at 12:01 on January 1st of 2022. It's not a network program. It doesn't pop right on the air. However, that energy does bleed in, gang. Okay? So the consciousness of 2022's year of expansion is going to be massive. And it's really important, if you hear nothing else in this podcast, that you hear this. We must make peace with our rage. Okay? We must make peace with our pain. We must make peace with that, anything that is in our guts, in our heart, that would create for us an angry, rageful response that we have no control over. We have got to make peace with the inner child in us that we've been ignoring, for those of you who are over a certain age. And if you're a younger person and you've been ignoring your inner child, well, you might want to get on that, because you don't want to end up being the weird, warped, angry white guy, whether you're a person of color or a woman, okay? So let's just make sure that we're dealing with our stuff. We got to deal with our stuff, especially coming into 2022, because the year of expansion is going to move us into a place where the velocity of our intention is exceptionally important. The velocity of our intention, okay? So if this were a math problem that I was going to construct, it would be velocity equals anger divided by intention, okay? Anger divided by intention times temperance. That would be the math problem going into 2022. The velocity is anger divided by intention times temperance. Because what that means is how fast things are going to change for us and the type of change that's going to take place really has to do with how we handle ourselves in the world. Now, I'm picking on anger, and I don't mean don't be angry, gang. There's a lot to be upset about in this world. I mean, I look at all the human trafficking. I look at all of the heinous things that go on. And I have a lot of what people like to call righteous anger. But really that anger, if you look at it, I'll take myself as an example. That may or may not be actual anger. What it likely is deep, deep heartbreak that all of a sudden becomes enraged that these things are happening to people on this earth. And that enraged need to protect then becomes anger, and how I choose to enact that heartbreak. It's really a heartbreak is what it is. And in 2022 especially, how I choose to enact that heartbreak matters. We have too many people in a system that's too fragile, in a country that is barely hanging on, being civil with one another right now. We are, but it's by a thread. And it matters where our expanding consciousness heads in 2022. So the first thing we got to do, gang, is make sure that our head is on straight. And even more than our head, we got to make sure that our heart is on. Our heart is centered and on straight. Because if our heart gets out in 2022, we're going to have an expansion of heart out year. We're going to have an expansion of internal chaos. We're going to have an expansion of our brains falling out. However, if we can just go a little zen going into 2022 and understand that everybody is in the same boat that you are and that I am, and understand that everybody is trying to get to really cultivate more fertile ground before they finish throwing all their seeds into their 2022 crop. Have some grace with yourself. Have some grace with other people, because the year of expansion, it's going to expand. Everything you've built up to this point is going to expand. And we can take our math problem, our emotional math problem, our life path math problem that we just put together, that velocity equals anger divided by attention times temperance. And that gives us the velocity of 2022. Yet our willingness and how our temperance variable at the very end, if we can make that variable bigger at the end, then it actually speeds up the velocity. Now, I know that everybody is probably not a math head or a science head. I'm a geek. What I'd like to say, though, is that we're going to need to bring some serious change into 2022 and in a year of expansion. We're going to expand social programs. We're going to expand help for people. This is also going to come through private investors and private people that expand social programs through the use of crypto and cashing crypto out. Crypto is going to be massive in 2022. So massive that it makes everything that we've been dinking around with in 2020 and 2021, it makes it look like the few people who knew who BTS was before they actually exploded, okay? That's what it's going to look like. We're going to look back and say, how could somebody not know who BTS is? We're going to look back and say, how did somebody not know how to work with crypto? And that's one of the reasons in our dollar level here on Patreon that I talk about prosperity consciousness and I try to bring some education in about the crypto system. And I don't know everything there is to know about it. I can just tell you that in 2022's year of expansion, it's going to be huge. So this is going to demand temperance from all of us. You know, our Gen Zs, those are our teenagers and our very early 20s. Our Gen Zs are very disinterested in interacting with such an angry United States of America. They're really disinterested. I know so many Gen Zs that just want to move out of America because they're like, yeah, this isn't my problem. This whole place is collapsing and I'm leaving. There's nothing here for a lot of these Gen Zs that have said, hey, we're the adults in charge and we're really making this a great place and we'd love you to help us. What they see is a bunch of infighting adults that are complaining that they can't retire because there's no more money left, which is actually a thing. And in the year of expansion, we've got these kids, these teenagers who are looking at this going, I don't think I want to be here anymore. And it's not just a few kids, gang. It's a lot of kids. You know, we're going to have an unprecedented amount of kids graduating high school and leaving to go to college abroad. So, or going to college and then leaving to go live somewhere that they perceive as less chaotic and less violent. And a lot of these kids, you have to remember, grew up in school lockdowns. So if you can imagine living in a country where you're being locked down in your school all the time, that doesn't really say, hey, go get a job, pay your taxes here, blah. So the year of expansion is a lot of the United States, and I'll speak, it's the world really, but it's also the United States looking at ourselves and really determining how, for God's sakes, how we got into this mess and how to get ourselves out. And the year of expansion is all going to be about new modalities. So if you're somebody who wanted to start something new and it kind of petered out on you and got slow and weird all the way through 2021, this is going to be an excellent year for you. I know a lot of people who are starting small businesses, and those small businesses really kind of took off and got weird, and then nothing happened, and then there was a lot of withholding of funding for small businesses, and things floundered, and a lot of job changes in 2021. So in 2022, gang, in the year of expansion, all these things I've talked to you about for the last how many years on this podcast, all these things I've translated on my blog prior to this, in all of my videos, in the books, everything every ounce of work I've done in the last 18 years in this field is accumulating up to applying it in 2022 to 2025. Because this is the time frame that we have to turn this freaking ship around. If we choose not to create a different expanding universe that is positive, that has a massive uptake of inspiring energy as opposed to anger energy, if we do not turn our anger into inspiration in 2022, we will be left in a vacuum of solitude with our own anger. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, folks. However, you may have noticed that there is a massive fatigue in people in the United States at this time. You might even be feeling it. You know, we've had a massive collective trauma with not only COVID, which, good God, and the persistence of COVID. And it just keeps going. And now living with COVID is a lifestyle. Okay. And so, you know, when I was looking ahead at the earth and talking with this angel that walks with the planet, and we were looking at COVID was going to be with us probably clear through to 2023 and beyond for a while. It's got different variations coming up and swirling around and moving and doing its thing. Yet, this will eventually get balanced out, gang. Yet, the bulk of work I've done with trying to get people's heads out of being combative in order to bring change and instead to be inspiring, all of that groundwork, gang, we got to bring it. Well, you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want. You can sit there and cuss me out and throw your listening device into a fountain if you want to. You go for it. Yet if we want to maximize 2022 as human beings that live with one another, it's going to be exceptionally important for us to not get sucked into the rage and the hatred. You know, we've got some interesting turns of events coming in 2022. We have an election. We have a midterm election. And the midterm election is going to get real spicy. Oh, God. I mean, it's kind of like when you used to date somebody and then you break up, but you're still kind of into them and they're not into you. And they go off and they're having a great life. And you're like, F you, I hate you. I'm not having a great life. And you turn into, Alanis Morissette. And you're standing outside of their house and you're singing weird songs. And I don't mean to bug you in the middle of dinner, but here I am. And so did you forget about me, Mr. Duplicity? If you're going down that road, as if I couldn't have made Alanis Morissette, who's white and Canadian, any whiter, but I just did. Oh my God, I'm going to white hell. This is bad. Anyway, so what we've got to do, gang, is we have to, if you're that person that would get that mad at somebody that you were with, that you would want to grudge their whole life, this is what the 2022 midterm election is going to be like. It's like going out with someone that you don't really like all that much, just to make sure that as you're stalking your ex, you're in the same movie theater so that person can see you with them so you can act all happy even though you're not. And then the poor person you're with thinks you're really into them. And then that's a whole Friends episode. So don't go there. Yet that's going to be 2022 with the political parties. We have a whole bunch of people in our nation that truly with their whole heart believe that Donald J. Trump was cheated out of the election of 2020. And though that is not true, that doesn't matter that it's not true. It's true to all of these millions upon millions of people. So when it comes down to trying to work with the year of expansion in an election, think about this. So let's just pretend my reality is that my favorite president was cheated out of an election. And so now it's a holy war. Now my purpose is to make sure that the United States gets put back right. This mentality in 2022 is going to expand. It's the year of expansion. Okay? So even though right now we've seen a subdued amount of the fanaticism, like we didn't see at the very end of the Capitol riot and all that craziness that happened, that whole insurrection, we're going to see a lot more crazy, gang. And 2022 is the year of expansion. So on the sociological front, for the people that have been hiding in their bunkers, eating beans in their backyard, waiting for the end to come because Joe Biden was elected as president, 2022 is going to be a particularly Old West year. So this is one of the reasons why I've been stomping on the log of, gang, we've got to turn anger into something else. Because if you have a group of people who are terrified that in their mind, they're terrified because they believe that the United States is going to hell in a handbasket, like big time. They're terrified that they're stuck in a country that they can't leave that's being taken over by authoritarians. I've talked to some of these folks. I have tried to talk them off a ledge. I have tried to tell them, listen, I know the guy that you really, really believed in didn't win, but he wasn't cheated. He was outside of your echo chamber. This guy's insanely abrasive and he freaked people out too much and he got voted out. Yet that's not what people can accept a lot of times, gang. They can't accept that. So I'm trying to give you the other side of the coin here so that when we do see some of this massive political meltdowns in 2022, which we are going to see, that the response that you author, if it is someone close in your life that's freaking out that the whole thing is rigged, please do your best not to hit that person in anger. Because what 2022 will do is say, oh, is that how we're setting up your next 3 or 4 years? Great. Let's just expand on that. Nobody needs that. We did that already from 2016 to 2020. It sucked. Okay. It sucked. We don't even need the t-shirt that said we did it. As a matter of fact, I found my t-shirt that said I lived through 2016 to 2022. And I went outside and I picked up dog poop with it and I threw it on a bonfire. That's what I did with my t-shirt, okay? Because that's where I put that energy. It is in the past. I learned, I moved on, but I sure don't want that energy in my sock drawer, okay? So as we go forward here, it's going to be important that we go forward, have your beliefs, stand up for what you truly believe in, yet understand that the fight of 1860 is not the way we got to go in the year of expansion. We've got to expand our table. I want you to think of Thanksgiving. I want you to expand your table, to invite people to sit at it, to have conversations, give them a piece of pie, get them to calm down as a human being, and show them you see them, and talk about their fears. And if you get to a place in 2022 where you just obviously are not going to be on the same page, as example, I was trying to talk a dear friend off the cliff, trying to explain to this person that no, Donald J. Trump was not cheated. He literally freaked everybody out, and people who never voted before registered and voted because they were so freaked out. I mean, Donald Trump's charisma, whether it was your perfect idea of a president or somebody that scared the crap out of you, reached through, and that charisma, whether it landed on people as a positive or a negative, reached through and got people up off the couch in some manner. Now, one of my biggest wishes ever is that I could go find former President Trump in Florida and just sit down and talk with the guy about how he could use all of that charisma for so much good in his life. Yet I don't think that's what he's here for. And I think that other people feel like he's doing good, even though I may not. So I think he's here for a whole different reason. Yet in 2022 year of expansion, sociologically, it's going to be important that we go forward with our purpose, yet with a high-mindedness. Now, I don't mean a false high-mindedness. I don't mean a false arrogance. I don't mean a false sense of I'm above you and you're below me because you're angry. We all get pissed, people. Reference the part of the podcast where I said I'm Italian. Go watch House of Gucci. Italians get real pissed. So I'm not saying that I don't get angry. I'm saying how I handle it is what I'm bringing into 2022. And so, yeah, we're going to see an election year, and, the election year is going to be pretty rocky. And for those of you that consider yourself more on the Democratic or progressive or blue side of the aisle, it's going to be a pretty rocky year. Because what I'm seeing is not a lot of our blue voters are getting out and voting like they need to. Now, I hope they do. Just to keep a system healthy. Yet also we've got a lot of voter gerrymandering and voter tampering, and there's a lot of problems in the 2022 elections also. But there's also just a lot of folks who feel like their American way of life has been robbed away from them, and they get out there and they vote their butts off. They vote their butts off in 2022. And that would lean more towards a conservative or a, quote, red way of governance. So, if we want to, if you're a blue voter out there and you're hearing this, then you might want to encourage your friends to actually get out and vote in the midterms and not ignore it. Because Congress looks like it wants to make a shift to the right on this because of the level of fear that people are experiencing. In the same way that a record number of voters showed up to vote for Joe Biden, there are there's half of the United States out there that's flipped out thinking that we're going to hell in a handbasket under Joe Biden. So they're going to show up and try to get people in their school boards, in court pack, get the people out there who are making the decisions in the courts to be conservative minded, to fill up the Congress with conservative people, And you have to understand, gang, and this is part of 2022's year of expansion. We've got to stop making other people into the demon. It's unlikely that I would cast a vote for one of today's Republicans, just simply because I don't really agree with the fact that I think it's all gone to hell and it's rage and anger and all the things. I'm just not that person. And really, the right side of our country has really gone down a very bullet pointy, angry hole. They don't think they're angry. They think the left is angry. So it's very interesting what we think is anger, right? However, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, I sit right on the middle of the fence when it comes to the fact that I would never, ever, ever crap can somebody or dismiss them based upon their vote. That's ridiculous. That's gross. That's authoritarianism at its highest. And I'm so freaking liberal. I believe we should all get along. Okay. I'm so creepy liberal that I completely piss off my hardcore lefty friends that don't think I'm judgy enough for the people on the right. They are so furious with me. They think I'm this milquetoasty, moderate, blah, blah, blah. They have lots of not nice things to say to me. Although I love these people and they love me. They just think I'm a political idiot. What I would tell you about that is I am so liberal that I believe there's a place at the table for everybody if that person can clean up their act and be polite and not throw the silverware. I believe that we can get to a place where we can speak to one another again and begin to heal these divides that we have in this country. And it's going to take somebody not acting like the hybrid Pomeranian at the table and just yip, 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 because somebody's giving us a treat and looking at us. It's got to take some of us to say, okay, I don't need to be the center of attention right now. I do not need to run all my wounds up the flagpole to get everybody to look at me right now to say, oh, you poor baby. Some of us out here, and I'm not saying I always succeed in being this person, yet in 2022's year of expansion, it's going to be important for some of us, if not a majority of us, to push ourselves to not react to the low-hanging fruit of baiting our anger. That goes for all of my dear friends on the right. It goes for all of my dear friends on the left. Please don't fall into that in 2022, because we've got to keep our heads on in order to get into 23 and 24 up to 25. 2022 is where our money starts shifting. It's where our sociology starts shifting. It's where we start to see a disconnect from the American people to the government. It's where even our democratic government, if people are Democrats, we have a lot. Of course, the Democratic Party loves to hate members of its own party. I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy. And then the Democrats say, I don't understand why the right does so well in elections. It's because they don't spend all their time cannibalizing all their candidates. Hello. And really, I mean, the left has got to stop looking for Jesus to walk them into the promised land. It's kind of silly. And the right has got to stop looking to secede the United States from the United States and just move on into the future. So if we could take the Jesus aspect out of the you know it, lefties, I'm one of you guys, we get too caught up in who's the perfect candidate, who's so perfect, who's Jesus Christ. You're not Jesus Christ. I'm going to shame you for not being Jesus Christ. We are so horrible. And yet the right over here who's like, well, he might have fondled 14-year-old girls, but he's just a guy. Come on, righties. Raise that bar a little bit. Lefties, loosen the grip on what your perfectionistic candidate looks like. Righties, please hold people to account. That would be good. And gang, if we all just took a little bit of a breath in 22's year of expansion, we can make some massive headway, no matter who gets elected. Yet it's going to depend on each one of us. It's going to depend on me and you and your kids and your spouse and your mom and your dad and the people you love. It's going to depend on us to set the example in 2022's year of expansion, for what we want to see in the world. And this is something that's really interesting. I have a really good friend right now who's running for a United States Congress seat here in Montana, because Montana, after the census, we got one more representative. We've only had one in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., because, well, we barely hit 1 million people. Now we've crested over 1 million people in our whole state, the fourth largest state in the union, with just barely over 1 million people. That's kind of hilarious. And so we have a new district out here, and it's this Eastern District in Montana. And so I've got this friend of mine who is running for this seat. She's a very good friend of mine, actually. And she's running for this seat for the National Congress. And I do not envy her, because we are in a process of trying to get people to understand that rage and anger, though they have a place in our life, don't really have a place at the policy table in politics. I mean, look at Martin Luther King. That man and the unkindness that he endured, Martin Luther King Jr., everything that he dealt with was horrifying. You know, it was horrifying. And a lot of what our people of color communities deal with is still horrifying. Yet even then, even when the Reverend Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, was fired up and given his sermons, there was a fire in them, and there was a purpose. And there might have even been a little anger, but that anger got wrapped in a lot of love to overcome and to come together. He didn't ask the people that relied on him for messages. He didn't ask them to go and burn it all down. He asked them to stand up in love for what love's birthright was. And that's a different energy. And we all need to take on that Martin Luther King energy in 2022, in this year of expansion. If we are going to expand our nation past the brokenness, I mean, gang, it's pretty, I mean, our gate is pretty much fallen off the yard fence. You know, you ever grow up, or you're growing up and you got that back crickety wooden fence at your grandma's, and nobody really pays attention to the fence all that much because it just lets out to like an acre field, right? But it's got a gate on it. And that dang gate, God, the hinges have been rotting for like 14 years. And pretty soon the actual gate itself is like the bottom hinge comes off, right? And it's only on the top hinge. You know, you've had a gate like this, and you have to pick it up. You got to move it over in the dirt, and the thing is like got worms attached to it, and you could barely get through. Pretty soon, you're just like, as a kid, you're just pushing it because all the grass has grown up around it, right? So you're just pushing it weird, and pretty soon the whole gate pops off because now the entire mechanism that holds it on has rusted out. And you're just propping the gate up. Actually, the grass is holding the gate up, and you're like squeezing out and then propping it back. That's where we are in the United States. We got one hinge that's about ready to go. All right. So in the year of expansion, this year is going to expand where your consciousness has set itself. Do you believe we're in hell as a country? Well, we're going to go to hell. Do you believe that it's going to be amazing and we can do something about it? Then you are going to be instrumental in doing something about it. Do you believe that you can step out into this world as a younger person and make a difference and not be bowled over by giant corporate and consumerist sociopathic interests? Then guess what? Your world, the velocity of that thought process, will expand in 2022. Do you believe that, are you in your middle age like me? Are you in your 50s and you're like, it's all gone to hell. No more Twisted Sister and the boss got arrested for drunk driving. It's gone to hell. Then guess what? Guess what, fellow middle-agers? You're going to live in a bored, fat, middle-aged hell. That's what's going to happen in your head with the expansive year of 2022. Now, obviously, gang, I don't want to see anybody live in hell, okay? I don't want to see anybody hurt. And I'm making light of a few subjects here, you know, because a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down sometimes. However, be aware that in the year of expansion, the biggest gift that we can bring to the world is our ingenuity and our flexibility. Now, the fringes, out on the fringes of life, the fringy thought processes, whether you want to call it right and left or angry or not angry or whatever, the namaste people are fringy, super fringy too. That sometimes just scares the crap right out of me. That gets weird. But if we're really in the fringes, we're going to have a harder time understanding the humanity of another person. Because if you're way out there in the fringe of life, you're really surrounding yourself in a very protected environment. If I'm a QAnon person, and I really, truly, honest to God, and a lot of them do, truly believe everything that Q talked about, then I'm going to construct a world that is based on a lot of distrust. If I'm somebody who is a super lefty that believes that the whole system just needs to come down because the whole thing is so broken, then I'm also going to surround myself and live in a world where everything is not living up enough to my expectations, and I'm going to be continuously disappointed, and my world, consequently, is going to be full of a lot of distrust. What is the common denominator here? It's distrust. Now, obviously, there are some people we really got to keep a hairy eyeball on because they don't know what to do with trust. You could hand them a bucket of trust and they wouldn't be sure what to do with it. Always be discerning. Yet in the year 2022, gang, it's so important that our consciousness adopts kindness as the first go-to. Expand on kindness. If somebody is so full of fear and rage and insanity that they are just hitting the wall going crazy, then remove yourself from that situation, because that's no longer about you or about what that person is angry at. When we lose our crap, that's 100% about us. So in America, we look for quick fixes. This angel wants me to address this before I'm out of time on this particular part 1, okay, of 2022's year of expansion, which has been about politics and sociology and who we're going to be going into 2022. You know, it's so important going into this year that kindness is not just a meme, and it's not just some trite little weird thing that we throw down on. It's so important that we see kindness as a interpreter for our fear. How's that? That's what this angel just said. Kindness as an interpreter for our fear and for other people's fear. Most people in this country, gang, don't want to see it burn down. Even some of the folks that the news captures that are, rushing the Capitol, if you really lit the whole country on fire and wiped out their bank accounts and took away our entire governmental system and made the whole thing a chaotic free-for-all in a country where everybody has access to a firearm, do you really think the cray-cray insurrection-y people want to see that? It's one thing when you get to be in your like group and mom and dad are staying really calm outside of your group, and then you get to go be a crazy teenager and act like an ass because somebody's going to be on the other side of that being rational. It's another thing if the whole entire country takes an absolute chaotic crap at the same time. So even the people that say, oh, it needs to burn down, the whole thing needs to burn down, well, I think our bad systems need to go away, but we can't just, nature abhors a vacuum, right? We can't remove a system unless we replace a system. And again, this angel's reminding me to say, anger may be a really driving force to drive policy, to drive why we need certain policy in place on a local government level, on a state government level, on a church board level, on a federal government level. There may be something that breaks our hearts so much that we get angry about it and make a policy on it. Yet anger cannot be the negotiation language. It just can't. And if you're somebody listening to this and you're mad about what I'm saying, I would ask you to just reach in and give your heart a hug, because you're not even actually mad at me. You're hurt. You're hurt that somebody hasn't seen your pain. You are hurt that somebody hasn't seen the world's pain. You're hurt that I'm asking you to give up the thing that allows you to stand up straight and have that stoic constitution and get through the day. I'm not asking you to give it up. I'm just asking you to replace it with kindness when it's time to come to the table, to make this place better, to make the world better, to make each other better, to make our sociology better. And it's got to start with our consciousness. Let me tell you how affected I am as a person who's deeply sensitive to energetic impulses and messages from the universe and other telepathic messages and pretty much anything that just flies through the ethers and knocks on my skull, because that's a really great way to spend a Saturday. It has gotten to the point where we are in the habit of negativity as an American culture. And I'm trying to get an album mixed right now. I'm trying to get a book finished. Well, even just halfway through it would be nice. I'm trying to get headway on some projects that are really important for me to release, because there's some great messages there that come from other places, that come from beyond, that I happen to capture in words, or I happen to capture in a song. I just happen to capture them. Yet they belong to the world. So I got to finish them and get them out there, right? What I noticed is that the habit in the United States to be so angry, that habit to be snarky and, the snottiest comment gets the reactions, because apparently we're all like meth heads who are coming down in an alley and everybody's overreacting because nobody has enough of their drug, which is me, attention, 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 in our narcissistic American type A society. And so I talked to my team and I said, listen, I have got to take a break from social media, because it's not just what people are posting on social media. And a lot of my friends are super positive people anyway. It's more the energy that comes through the platforms. You may not be aware of this, yet you can feel the energy that's coming through the internet at you. You may not be aware of it, but you can. I'll give you an example. Pop onto Instagram and then pop onto Twitter and watch how your energy field changes. Twitter is 150 characters or 250 characters of pure pithy. And it's gotten to the point where, I'll go on there and just scroll if I need my brain to rest for a minute, but I really don't go on there very much at all, because I'm noticing that our politicians, our news anchors, our authors, our influencers, our celebrities, everybody is reaching for this nasty opinion, this snark. Everybody's reaching for the snark because that seems to get the most reactions. And when you magnify the energy of that snark on Twitter times hundreds of millions of users, that's what impacts me. That's what impacts you, even if you're not aware of it. 2022 is the year of expansion. And we've got to expand our bubble and put in that bubble whatever works for us. So I told my team, I said, I'm going to be off of social media for a while, because I just can't deal with this level of being addicted to who can be the snarkiest person. And again, I've got a lot of wonderful friends that are very kind and sweet also. And as it turns out, I was going to just disable silence my Twitter account for a while and just let it, because your phone picks up that electromagnetic energy too. Your phone has a battery. When all that weird ass mojo is coming through social media, it stores in your phone. So every time you pick your phone up, it's got weird social media juju all over it. And you got to turn it off and turn it back on to get rid of all the juju. And it's a physics issue, and I don't have enough time in the podcast to go into it. But literally, I thought, well, I'll just silence this so it doesn't beam to my phone anymore. Well, it turns out you have to just delete your Twitter account. And I do have too many things that are positive that I enjoy sharing with people, so I just left it, and I don't check it very often. Same with Facebook. I wanted to just silence that for a while and get off of there, because my 2022 year of expansion, my expansion has got to be to the heavens. My expansion has got to be to the earth. My expansion has got to be to each one of you that I love so dearly. My expansion has got to be into my projects, my music, my television show. It's got to be into my books. My expansion has got to be, my focus has got to be on 2022 to 2025. Building structures that allow others to come forward in their timidity to bring out their kindness and the power of their love. My expansion has got to be in the area to create stewardship circles for these areas and for these folks who may not feel safe enough to let that fly anywhere else. And show them that there are people of different beliefs that can sit at a table and come to solutions and still love on one another. And show them that we are not done as what we think of the giant Democratic Republic experience in America. We're done if we don't come to the table with each other. And 2022 is going to really bear out to see if we're willing to do that or not. So lefties, even if all the elections don't exactly go the way you want, whether it's through voter turnout not getting up enough, or it's through weird gerrymandering or whatever, or righties, even if the person that you really, really want to be in that election doesn't make it in because of weird floods of voter turnout, gang, we've got to stop looking at the score and we've got to stop playing a game. And we need to all get up and go to the concession box, okay? So the year 2020 launched all the way through 2021, was a parking lot for most people's projects. Some weren't, but mostly it was. 2022 is the year of expansion. And I know this is a lot. This is kind of a heavy podcast. Just remember, get your heart in the right place for who you are. Keep your belief systems, keep your beliefs, keep your opinions. Yet let kindness be your interpreter. Keep your trajectory. Yet let temperance be the gas pedal presser. Be the foot on your gas pedal is temperance rather than rage and anger. Because it's going to be a tight year in 2020 politically. It's going to be a tight year sociologically. And how we choose to deal with one another is going to set the tone for 23, 24, and 25. So the year of expansion, let your consciousness expand, let you expand, okay? Into the most developed being you've ever become. Let all of your life lessons accumulate at this singular point in time. Just like 18 years of my work is accumulating all right now, right for this time frame. Let everything you've got come to the table. Be fearless enough to shine in kindness. Be fearless enough to stand up for non-polarization. We got to come out of that if we're going to make it through the climate issues we have coming up. Be that person who's brave enough to not hate to gain an identity. If you've got to hate something else to show who you are, that may need a long talk with yourself. And you may need to look yourself in the mirror and say, why do I base what I am on what I hate? Why am I not strong enough to base what I am on what I love? What do I believe in, hatred or love? 2022, the year of expansion. Wrapping up on part 1, and I will see you next podcast.